What's going on, Bengals fans? Chris Daughtry here with Bengals Breakdown, and coming up on today's show, we're talking some trade rumors at the quarterback position for the Cincinnati Bengals. At the very end of today's show, we'll also touch on some of the injuries that the Bengals suffered after their Week 3 loss. Before we get into that, though, like I said, we're talking trade rumors here on the show today, so I want to hear from you guys down inside the comment section. Should the Bengals trade for a quarterback? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Type Y for yes or N for no. All right, I got a couple different guys that I want to discuss here on today's show, and the first one is Kirk Cousins. I've seen this name thrown out a bunch by Bengals fans and some other people online as well. I think with Kirk Cousins, the big thing for him is his contract right now. He has a ridiculous contract with the Atlanta Falcons. Right now in 2025, he has a base salary of $27.5 million plus a $10 million fully guaranteed option that's going to be due at the end of March. So that's going to have to be paid out as well. So that means the Bengals would have to pay somewhere around $34 million in 2025 if they wanted to go out and get Kirk Cousins. I just don't think that is really an option for the Bengals right now. You've got Jake Browning. You're paying him just about over $1 million. So you're not going to go out there and pay an extra $33 or so million for a quarterback that is 37 years old, and he's a year and some change off of a torn Achilles, and just that kind of money to pay somebody that may or may not be better than Jake Browning. Probably not, to be honest with you. I've seen some suggestions as well that maybe Kirk Cousins can take a pay cut or maybe pay some of that money back on that contract. And, maybe the Bengals could only give up just a little bit of draft capital to end up getting him. If I'm Kirk Cousins, I am just going to stay my happy ass in Atlanta and make them pay every single cent of that ridiculous 4-year, $180 million contract, because right now Kirk Cousins also has a no-trade clause in that contract, so he would have to approve any possible trades for him. Now, he does want to be a starter in the National Football League, but let's just be completely honest. Kirk Thuggins is long gone at this point. Really hasn't been, good since that Achilles injury. It really 2022 was the last year that you could realistically say Kirk Cousins had a decent season there. He was 7-7 last year as a starter before getting benched for Michael Penix Jr. He led the league in interceptions at the time of getting benched. And, with the contract that he has, with the age, with the injury history, I just don't really see it happening, nor do I really want this to be an option for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you want to trade for a quarterback, name that quarterback down at the pinned comment of today's show. I know a lot of people still do like Jake Browning, but I do think there's some options out there that could at least be more fun options for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you want to trade for a quarterback, let me know who you want to trade for down at the pinned comment of today's show. Jimmy Garoppolo is the second name that I want to talk about today. The one problem I see here right now with a possible Jimmy Garoppolo trade is that, Matt Stafford has been dealing with some back stuff, especially during the preseason, and they might not necessarily want to move off their backup quarterback because some of those injury concerns with Matt Stafford. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo is a cheap option. He's on a 1-year contract with about $1.25 million right now. And I do think this is the one option that we're going to talk about today that probably does make the most sense for the Bengals. Zach Taylor said the other day when asked about signing both Mike White and Sean Clifford, what went into that decision-making process of signing those two guys? And Zach Taylor said the biggest reason was that familiarity with the terminology that the Bengals use on the offensive side of the ball. Those guys have played under coaches that Zach Taylor has worked with in the past, and that terminology would be easier for those guys to pick up. Jimmy G right now is with the Rams under head coach Sean McVay, who Zach Taylor worked for in 2017 and 2018. So that fits kind of that same category as the Mike White and Sean Clifford signing that the Bengals ended up making. Now, Look, Jimmy G has had his fair share of ups and downs in the NFL. He looked pretty good as the backup quarterback with the Patriots. And then, he ends up going to the 49ers. He ends up taking them to the Super Bowl in 2019. But, after that, he kind of fell off. He had that suspension that he had to deal with the Raiders. And, he's kind of the reason that Devontae Adams wanted out of Las Vegas because he was just throwing way too many hospital balls. He was missing wide open receivers constantly. And I'll be honest, I'm not really making the best case right now for Jimmy G. But last year, he played in one game and he was okay. He was 27 for 41, over 300 yards passing, a couple touchdowns, and one interception in that game. Now, that game was a 25-3 loss versus the Seattle Seahawks. And look, Jimmy G is not necessarily, a great option, but right now you don't have a ton of great options. He is cheap. He is on a one-year deal, so if you want to get rid of him after this year, you can let him walk in free agency. But there is that Sean McVay, Zach Taylor connection that Zach Taylor did talk about, so wanted to throw Jimmy G on here as well. All right, we'll come back with some more trade candidates here, or trade options here in just a second, but today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. I use Prize Picks for a ton of different types of sporting events, whether it's baseball, basketball, MMA, professional football, and so much more. Prize Picks is a ton of fun, and if you guys know ball, you can win real money all season long on Prize Picks. This is the power play that we got cooked up for this week's slate of games, the max discount there. Jalen Hurts, all he needs is a half passing yard. Going with a more than on that because that's very easy. Make sure you get those max discounts into all of your Prize Picks lineups. Also, going with Cortland Sutton, more than receiving yards, 62.5 for him. And then going with the less than on Jake Browning passing yards. That's the power play, but the great thing about Prize Picks is they also invented the flex play, which means you can cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks does not hit. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money today. So download the Prize Picks app and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link is going to be down in the description of today's show. It's also going to be down at the pinned comment of today's show as well. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now, I think the most fun option right now to trade for a quarterback would be Jameis Winston. All I want to do, folks, is eat a dub. And that's something that Jameis Winston could provide for you. He's right now signed with the Giants, 2 years, $8 million contract. And look, with Jameis Winston, we've talked about him before. First couple of years of his career, he started off with Tampa Bay. And the storyline, I think, of Jameis Winston has kind of always been that touchdown to interception ratio. He is a gunslinger. He throws a lot of touchdowns, but he does also throw a lot of interceptions as well. After his first 4 seasons, his 5th season there with Tampa Bay, he actually led the league in passing yards and interceptions. And I think it was after that he ended up getting eye surgery, and that was kind of a funny joke that I know a lot of people made out there that, hey, he can finally see now, so maybe that'll fix some things. Didn't necessarily fix a lot of things, but after his time in Tampa Bay, he ends up going to the New Orleans Saints, where he went 6-4 as a starter through 4 seasons, only had 10 starts for the Saints. Last season, he was with the Browns, went 2-5 as the starter for them, but damn if it wasn't fun to watch. I think Jake Browning and Jameis Winston are kind of on that same level right now, and if we are going to get just super mid quarterback play, I would love to at least have a little bit of fun with it, and I think with Jameis Winston, you at least have a little bit of fun with him. And let's be honest, if he's out there throwing to these wide receivers that the Bengals have, I think he might throw a lot of interceptions, but I think he's also would throw for a lot of touchdowns, and he would throw for a lot of yards as well. So who would you guys rather have? Pick a quarterback for me. Type JB for Jake Browning or JW for Jameis Winston. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's show. Now, this could also be an option here. Russell Wilson, the biggest problem right now with Jameis Winston is not necessarily sure the Giants want to actually get rid of him. I talked to our Giants host, Marshall Green, here, and he said if you were to trade for Jameis Winston, it would probably be around a 5th-round pick for him. And I'll be honest, I don't really want to give that up for Jameis Winston, but news that came out just before filming here, the Giants are actually benching Russell Wilson. They're going to go with Jackson Dart instead. So Russell Wilson has officially been benched here by the New York Giants. And, he is pretty cheap as well. He signed a 1-year deal worth $10.5 million, but that signing bonus was $8 million. That's already been paid out. So really the base salary right now for Russell Wilson is about $2 million plus any incentives he might end up hitting there. So Russell Wilson had a very, very good game. He had a career high in passing yards against the Dallas Cowboys, but the other 2 games really haven't been very good. But he is a veteran player. He is a leader, and he might be a decent option for you as well if you want to go out there and trade for a quarterback. All right, before we get out of here, I want to touch on some of these injuries that the Bengals suffered this past weekend. Obviously, Taylor-Britt and Shemar Stewart have been out this past week anyways. Taylor-Britt dealing with a hamstring injury. Shemar Stewart's going to be out at least another week or 2 with that ankle injury. Now, Dalton Risner also went out of that game with a calf injury. He's probably going to be good to go is what it sounds like, but, the Bengals will continue to monitor that this week. He'll probably be, day-to-day. Noah Fant also went out in that game with a concussion. He's going to be day-to-day, and Samaje Perine also dealing with a thumb injury. MRIs came back pretty clean for him, and Zach Taylor said that they actually avoided any kind of significant long-term issues there with that thumb injury for Samaje Perine. So, the good news for the Bengals is they play on Monday Night Football this week, so you at least have an extra day to get some of these guys healthy. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to Bengals Breakdown. We'll be with you for the good, the bad, and the ugly all season long. So do not miss out. Hit that sub button. It's youtube.com/BengalsTV.